Picture a small human camp after sunset, with 6 people lying on grass beside a fire. Their eyes are closed. Everything else nearby has excellent night vision. The cats can see, the hyenas can smell, the snakes are already on the ground, and the weather has no interest in mercy. Somehow, the humans decide this is the correct moment to become unconscious for several hours. Nobody has invented a door. Nobody has invented a lock. The central mystery is not why ancient humans feared the night. It is how enough of them survived it for you to complain about your mattress. The honest answer begins with an inconvenience. There was no single ancient human night. A family in a warm woodland faced different problems from hunters on a cold, exposed plain. Early Homo lived across immense spans of time, with changing bodies, tools, climates, and predators. Archaeology also preserves stone and bone far better than blankets, branches, sleeping positions, or nervous glances. We can recover a hearth. We usually cannot recover the person who woke because a twig snapped. So the story is built from evidence, cautious inference, living hunter-gatherer comparisons, and several very reasonable suspicions.
Before reliable fire, humans were not helpless furniture. Our primate relatives build sleeping nests, choose branches, and make careful decisions about height and stability. Earlier hominins probably inherited some of that behavior. But as human bodies became better at walking on the ground, sleeping high in trees became increasingly awkward. A large terrestrial ape carrying children, tools, and food cannot simply become a squirrel every evening. At some uncertain point, more sleep moved downward. This created a technical problem. The ground is convenient, spacious, and full of ground things. Humanity had made a decision. The floor would now require management. The first defense was probably not a weapon, it was location. A sleeping place could be raised, sheltered, dry, away from animal paths and noisy water holes. High ground improved visibility and drainage. Rock overhangs blocked wind. Trees, thorny vegetation, and narrow approaches could make surprise more difficult. Caves helped when they existed, but caveman is a preservation bias wearing a fur costume. Caves protect ancient evidence from weather and erosion, so they appear unusually important in museums. Most landscapes did not offer everyone a private cave.
And caves were not automatically safe. A dark hole may already contain a bear, a leopard, hyenas, or several generations of bat waste. The entrance can become a trap. Smoke collects. Falling rock remains committed to gravity. An open camp, carefully chosen, could offer better sightlines and multiple escape routes. This is why the prehistoric housing market was complicated. The attractive cave had excellent insulation, dramatic natural stonework, and an undisclosed carnivore tenant. The open plain had no walls, but at least the walls could not attack. The next defense was the group itself. One sleeping human is vulnerable. 20 sleeping humans are a badly organized alarm system. Bodies create noise, smell, and confusion. Children and less mobile people can lie toward the center, while adults occupy the outer edge. Spears, clubs, and stones remain within reach. A predator approaching several alert adults is not hunting a silent antelope. It is negotiating with primates who throw objects and remember grudges. We cannot prove every ancient camp used this arrangement, but group defense is a powerful, widely available strategy. Predators also learn. A cat that tests a camp and receives stones, shouting, and 3 badly aimed spears may choose easier prey next time. Humans did not need to dominate the landscape every night. They needed to look expensive to attack. Even an inaccurate weapon changes the calculation when 12 angry apes are throwing it.
The group may also have solved a stranger problem.
Perhaps nobody needed to guard the camp deliberately. Modern research with Hadza hunter-gatherers found that different sleep schedules naturally overlapped. Across the observed nights, someone was awake or lightly sleeping almost all the time. Older people, younger people, night owls, and early risers did not become unconscious in perfect synchronization. The result resembled a sentinel system without a manager, rota, or laminated safety chart. This does not prove Paleolithic camps worked identically. It shows how ordinary human variation can produce protection almost by accident. Then, fire changed the argument. At Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, microscopic evidence places fire deep inside the cave around 1 million years ago. At Gesher Beno Yakov in present-day Israel, clustered burned flint, wood, and seeds suggest controlled fire roughly 790,000 years ago. Exactly when fire became habitual remains debated. Using a natural flame, preserving embers, controlling a hearth, and creating fire on demand are not the same achievement. Ancient humans may have mastered them gradually while trying very hard not to sneeze on the last coal.
Fire was useful, but not magical. A small flame does not create an invisible wall respected by every hungry animal. It provides light, heat, smoke, and movement. It can reveal eyes beyond the camp. It lets people see a spear before grabbing it. It may discourage some predators, especially when humans keep the fire active and noisy. But a dying fire becomes a decorative orange suggestion. Someone must gather fuel, protect embers, manage sparks, and avoid burning the bedding. The first home security system also tried to destroy the home. Firelight created another complication. It improved human vision near the hearth while making the darkness beyond it seem deeper. A person staring into flames loses useful night vision, then sees every bush become a patient leopard. Camp design therefore mattered. Several small fires, clear sight lines, and active movement could be more useful than one theatrical blaze. Bigger was not automatically safer. Bigger was sometimes simply harder to feed. This is where night survival becomes less heroic and much more domestic. People needed dry fuel before darkness. They needed enough wood for cold hours, not merely enough for an impressive dinner. They needed wind protection without suffocating smoke. They needed children away from sparks and sparks away from grass. They may have carried embers between camps because preserving fire can be easier than producing it from nothing. The most valuable object at dawn may have been one ugly smoking lump of yesterday.
Fire also transformed temperature. For a mostly hairless primate, cold is not a dramatic monster with glowing eyes. It is a slow extraction of coordination, judgment, and heat. Wind and wet ground make it worse. A night can be predator-free and still become lethal through exposure. Hearths, hides, shared body warmth, and windbreaks turned sleep into an engineering problem. The objective was not comfort in the modern sense. The objective was to wake with functioning hands. Luxury arrived later, shortly after the second layer of grass. And yes, they made beds. At Border Cave in South Africa, researchers identified grass bedding dating to about 200,000 years ago. Some layers were associated with ash, which may have helped deter crawling insects. Old bedding could also be burned, clearing pests and dirty material from the living area. This is an astonishingly familiar household routine. Replace the bedding, remove the bugs, and accidentally leave evidence for archaeologists. The prehistoric mattress had no warranty, but it was ventilated, biodegradable, and apparently expected to catch fire eventually.
The insects matter because the night was not only lions. Mosquitoes, ticks, fleas, snakes, and stinging arthropods could interrupt sleep or transmit disease. Smoke, ash, aromatic plants, and raised bedding may have reduced some of that pressure. We should be cautious. Specific plant choices and intentions are difficult to prove, but humans are excellent at noticing that one sleeping place causes less suffering than another. Cultural knowledge can grow from repeated irritation. No scientific theory is required when everyone agrees the bugs hate the smoky corner. Around the middle of this story, the obvious answer begins to fail. Ancient humans did not survive night simply by building brighter fires and sharper spears. Fire created a new social space after sunset. People could repair tools, process food, care for children, talk and watch one another. The dangerous hours became partially usable hours. A hearth gathered bodies into a visible circle. That circle improved vigilance, but it also strengthened memory, cooperation, and teaching. Night defense may have helped build culture, while culture made night defense better. The hearth extended the social day. Skills could be demonstrated after hunting stopped. Plans could be revised. Stories could preserve which valley flooded, which plant soothed a sting, and which cave definitely belonged to something enormous. Information became another shelter. A remembered warning weighed nothing, required no fuel, and could protect people who had never seen the original danger.
This is the reversal. Sleep did not become safe first. Humans became better at sleeping while danger remained. They reduced risk in layers: location, numbers, staggered wakefulness, fire, bedding, shelter, tools, and shared knowledge. None of these had to be perfect. Each only had to improve the odds slightly. Over thousands of nights, tiny improvements become surviving children, remembered routes, and better camps. Evolution did not require a peaceful bedroom. It required enough mornings. Later humans added more structure. Posts, branches, hides, and brush could form windbreaks or temporary shelters. At sites such as Terama in France, post holes have been interpreted as evidence for shelters hundreds of thousands of years ago, although reconstructions remain debated. Clothing, cordage, and sewn hides eventually expanded the climates humans could tolerate. Dogs entered the story much later, bringing warmth, hearing, and their own opinions about shadows. The night became crowded with technology, most of it made from materials that rarely survive.
So what did an ordinary prehistoric night feel like? Probably not a single 8-hour block in a silent chamber with personal temperature control. People shifted, fed fires, soothed children, listened, urinated, checked noises, and slept again. Some nights were calm, some were cold, some included an animal outside the light, waiting for the humans to make a mistake. Most left no archaeological trace. Fear was probably useful, but permanent panic would have been exhausting. Familiar sounds had to be classified: wind, hoof, child, ember, predator. Humans became specialists in deciding which noise required a spear and which required turning over. Survival was not one brilliant invention, it was routine attention repeated until sunrise. Here is your historical choice. You can sleep inside a cave containing old hyena bones and no visible exit behind you, or beside an open fire with 12 relatives who snore, argue, and occasionally wake. Put your choice in the comments: cave or camp. The cave offers walls, the camp offers witnesses. Ancient humans repeatedly chose versions of both, depending on landscape, weather, and experience. There was no universal solution, only locally acceptable danger. Modern bedrooms hide how strange sleep still is. We close our eyes for hours, trust other people, walls, and machines, and become furious when a tiny sound interrupts us. Night owls and early risers still overlap. Families still check doors, children, and heaters. We still build layers between the body and cold, insects, strangers, and uncertainty. The materials changed, the basic negotiation did not. Ancient humans survived the night not because they conquered darkness, and not because fire frightened every predator away. They survived by making vulnerability collective. Someone stirred, someone heard, someone fed the ember, someone remembered where the wind came through. The camp never became completely safe. It became safer than sleeping alone. 6 people beside a fire closed their eyes while the night kept watching. Crucially, the humans took turns watching back.